Welcome back. Ciano here. I did not like that. Wait, who messed up my background? The first time I watched Squid Game, I ended up binging the entire series in one evening. Yeah, self-control has never been a strong suit of mine. Even for a serial binger like me, this was a lot. 8 hours of any show is a lot, but Squid Game is essentially an exploration into human suffering and cruelty, and the cumulative effect of watching all of it at once left me exhausted and unable to fall asleep as I stared up at my bedroom ceiling, trying to process what I just watched. Around midnight, I ended episode 5, and I thought about turning in for the night. And then I made the mistake of watching one more, and I experienced episode 6, Gambu, for the first time. I won't beat around the bush. I think that this episode is one of, if not the best episode of television I have ever seen. That's what this next series is going to focus on. How Hwang Dong-hyuk was able to craft an episode of television that can still move me to tears after my 6th time watching it. So let's just dive right in. I want to take a look at the narrative structure of the show as a whole because 1, I think it's genius storytelling, and 2, it gives us a better understanding of why episode 6 is so impactful. I want to examine the main plotline with a spotlight on Sang-woo, who demonstrates how the games were created to use violence to strip away the player's humanity until they became the quote-unquote horses at a racetrack. For our purposes today, we will only focus on the games and leave what's happening behind the scenes for another episode. Hi, Ciano here. Bit of an editor's note, unscripted edition. I just tried to upload this video and unfortunately got hit with the copyright claim, despite the fact that, I'm literally talking about how the show's genius and everyone should watch it, but that's beside the point. I'm going to do everything I can to get this video up, but I wanted to just apologize in advance because, it's going to be a little sloppier than I normally like to have it. It's just not going to look as good. But I have worked for like 2.5 weeks on this thing, and I just can't start from zero, I just can't do it. So, I hope you continue watching. I hope you enjoy what comes next. And just fuck Netflix, just blanket statement, but fuck Netflix. Okay. Welcome. Go, enjoy the video. You turn up the heat slowly. First, we start the story with Sung Gi-hun, the protagonist. From what we learn later on, we can assume that every player that participates in these games had a similar interaction with a mysterious man asking if they will play a game with him. The man asks if Gi-hun will play Dakji with a wager of 100,000 won per round. Despite having no money himself, Gi-hun agrees to play. When he loses, the man says that he will allow Gi-hun to pay his debts with his body, and he proceeds to slap him. After losing several rounds, Gi-hun finally wins, and for a moment, he forgets about the money. He tries to strike the other man, and the man stops him and puts 100,000 won in Gi-hun's hand. And he looks, at first, disappointed that he doesn't get to hit the man. This one moment is the first step down the path of losing both his humanity and the humanity he sees in others. With the promise of money, he loses himself, if only for a moment, but long enough for him to forget about why he was playing the game in the first place. We don't see Sang-woo playing this game, but again, we can assume that something similar happened to him. Finally, at the end of this episode, we see the first game, Red Light, Green Light. This is a vast jump from a slap in the face. This game is a bloodbath. Players getting shot if the doll at the end of the arena sees them move, and in this game, Sang-woo actually attempts to help Gi-hun. The two of them are childhood friends, and in this game, they're innocent victims. He is still focused on surviving himself, but we do see his compassion, at least towards Gi-hun. After all, they had agreed to play these games, but they were never told that they would be this violent. Of course, the people behind the games don't want the players to play because they're being forced to. There is a rule in place that if a majority of players vote to stop the games, then they will end them, and the prize money will be split amongst the eliminated players' families. That's exactly what happens in episode 2. We see Sang-woo using this rule to call for a vote, but before they get a chance to vote, all of the players are shown how much money they stand to win: 456 billion won. Despite calling for the vote, Sang-woo votes to continue the games once he sees how much money he stands to win. However, they do vote to end the games, which was surprising, at least for me. After all, if the story is focused around the games, then the audience knows to some extent that the main characters will all need to return. But this vote is incredibly important, both for the players and for the audience, to see that 1, they were able to leave the games, and 2, what's waiting for them outside of the games is no better. In the Hunger Games, the participants are forced to be there. Think of any story based on gladiator fights. The Hunger Games, Battle Royale, Gladiator, Running Man, the list goes on. In all of those stories, the people putting the games on are the bad guys, while the people behind the games in Squid Game are arguably worse than the entities behind those other examples. They do not fully occupy the role of the bad guy. They're by no means good, but it's not that far of a reach from systems that we have in place in our own society. If you don't have the money to pay for college, you can choose to join the military. Just like in Squid Game after episode 2, everyone participating in the game chose to be there. Although as we see throughout the episode, it hardly feels like they have a choice. Sang-woo graduated the top of his class from the prestigious Seoul National University. Then he legally invested his client's money and subsequently lost all of it. He's on the run from law enforcement, and he also used his mother's house and store as collateral. After the games end, he isn't able to even face his own mother, and he is lying in the bathtub of a hotel room contemplating killing himself when he is notified that the games will continue and that he can join if he chooses. There's this logical fallacy that the show presents, that the presence of free will makes the players who choose to return no longer victims but more active participants. However, if you're drowning and someone throws you a life preserver, along with conditions that you must do what they say, it doesn't feel like a choice. Whoever threw out the life preserver is in a more morally gray area than whoever stranded you in the first place, certainly, but if you were already going to drown, then what do you make of this neutral Samaritan simply taking advantage of your vulnerable state? In the next game, contestants are given a needle and have to carve shapes out of circles of melted sugar. Just like red light, green light, this competition is purely individual. The contestants can't do anything to sabotage each other. What makes this game different is the choice given to all of them at the start. Without knowing what the game is, they are asked to line up in front of one of the 4 shapes. There's a measure of chance and inequality in this game, as carving the umbrella out of the sugar is much more difficult than carving out the triangle. This increase in heat is subtle, but placing the competitors on different footing introduces the idea that there are ways to better position themselves. Sang-woo is able to guess what the game is before the selection, but he keeps it to himself, and he even allows Gi-hun to choose the umbrella. He hesitates before letting him go, but there seems to be a calculation in his head. He cares about Gi-hun, but he knows that most people will die, and at least this way, he doesn't have to be involved in it. After all, he only had a hunch of what the game is. Now that the players are looking out for themselves more, the makers of the game show the players that not only is there no penalty for violence taken against their competitors, but it's actually advantageous for them to kill off their competitors. They purposefully give the players too few rations, causing a fight to break out. Deok-soo ends up killing another player. There's no punishment. Instead, money is added to the pot that sits above their head. It's clear consent by the makers of the game that players are allowed to kill each other to thin out the competition. That night leads to one of the most violent interactions in the whole series, and the players have no idea that it was planned. As their barracks are filled with screams and panic, we see Gi-hun, Sang-woo, Il-nam, Ali, and Sae-byuk band together to protect each other. Working as a team is a nice idea until the game makers utilize it in the next event, Tug of War. This is the first official game where the players must kill their opponents in order to advance. Again, another increase in heat, but it's measured. The players have little time to think, as showing mercy to the other team will immediately lead to their own demise. In addition, it is putting the onus of killing 10 other people on the team as a whole. It's once again thanks to Sang-woo's quick thinking that allows them to win the game, successfully killing their competitors. We're here. The best/most impactful episode of the series, which is surprising given that you don't usually want your plot to reach its climax with 3 episodes left. And the main plot does find its climax in episode 9 with the final game. In this episode, we see the players forced to cross the last threshold in this step-by-step elimination of their humanity. Unlike in other episodes where we cut away from the games as they're being played, or split the games between 2 episodes, aside from one scene, we stay with the players throughout the entire game. And the players are misled before the game starts. They're told that the game will be played in teams of 2 and that they should select their partner that they want to play the game with. Some pairs are comprised of strong players wishing to team up, but many pairs are formed by players who feel closest to each other. Sang-woo's choice to team up with Ali is a bit of both. The two of them have grown closer, and they do also cover most games with Ali's strength and Sang-woo's brain. Once they enter the game, it is revealed that they are actually competing against their partner. The winner advances, the loser is eliminated. There is no place to hide. As it dawns on the players of what they will have to do, there is a variety of reactions. You know that the episode will be emotionally charged when the husband and wife pair are only shown when they realize what they must do to advance. Sang-woo is losing his game to Ali, so he manipulates him into essentially forfeiting his victory, and he then leaves the arena, never facing Ali, and allowing him to die alone. It's in this game where the players truly lose their humanity. All of the players who make it out of this round are haunted by what happens in this game, and it allows them to be warped into the ideal players for the final 2 challenges. After the marbles game, the husband begs the competitors to end the games, and Sang-woo says,
여기서 나가면 당신 부인이 살아 돌아와? 당신이 부인을 죽인 걸 용서라도 받아? 그렇게 괴로우면 왜 당신이 살아왔어? 당신이 부인 대신 죽었어야지. 저건 당신 부인뿐이 아니라 여기서 죽은 인간들 전부의 목숨값이야. 저거 두고 그냥 나가자고? 나가서 다시 밑바닥에서 지랄 같은 인생까지, 지랄 같은 죄책감까지 안고 살자고? 당신들 정말 그렇게 살 자신 있어? 그렇게 살 수 있으면 당장 다들 일어나서 밖으로 나가보라고!
There is no coming back. Some players may have been at this point before, but now they are all dealing with the fallout of what they've become. Now that the horses have been trained, the final 2 games begin. One in which the players are put in order 1 through 16 and have to make their way across a bridge of glass. Each step on the bridge presents the players with a choice between 2 panes of glass, one that will hold them and another that will shatter, causing them to fall to their deaths. The only rule is that the players must start the challenge in the order that they selected. It's It's a game designed to pit players against each other. Players early in the order have to either take their chances or find a way to force the other players in front of them. We see Sang-woo take this approach. At the end, he throws a man to his death in order for him to ensure his win. Compare what Sang-woo did in the first game, red light, green light, to what he does now. Both games have the same objective, getting from point A to point B. However, now he's gotten his hands dirty. He's no longer held back by his humanity, now he's trying to win. Sang-woo fully accepts this new role. He kills Sae-byuk in cold blood at night. And when the final game begins, it's only him and Gi-hun left. Even Gi-hun, who has been the foil to Sang-woo, falls into the traps of the game makers as he's so angry over Sae-byuk's death that he wants to kill Sang-woo. But he doesn't. Well, not at first. The final game is the Squid Game, a violent children's game that is only magnified in its intensity here. Sang-woo has been beaten down by Gi-hun. He's staring down the barrel of a gun, ready to die, and Gi-hun has the opportunity to win all of the money, but he stops. He says he wants to end the game, meaning that if Sang-woo also votes to end the game, they'll both be allowed to leave alive, but the money will be dispersed to the other players' families. While Gi-hun tries to leave the game with some of his humanity intact, Sang-woo doesn't let him, and he kills himself. He realizes that if he leaves alive, then all that he did would be for nothing. He reminisces for the past, a time when they were innocent, but as he says, no one calls them anymore. Left alone on the fringes of society, forced to put their life on the line in order to survive, he just wishes that they could go back. In a show that asks us to witness the depths of human cruelty, there are numerous episodes with impactful moments. While this half recap makes it sound like the games are filled with an onslaught of sad and despicable moments, there are also moments of compassion in the face of so much calculated cruelty, and that is what makes episode 6 so great. In the coming videos, I want to take a look at the pairs of Sang-woo and Ali, Gi-hun and Il-nam, and Sae-byuk and Ji-young to better understand the power of this episode and this series. Thank you so much for watching. If the audio sounds different now, hopefully it's an improvement. There has been a bit of a gear upgrade and I'm very excited about it. I'm so excited to really dive into this series. It's one of my favorite pieces of media and I could talk about it for hours. Anyways, if you made it this far, consider subscribing. It's the best way to support this channel. If you're interested in any of my other projects, there is a link tree in the description down below, and I will be posting the full video without any of the censors on that Substack. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.